Yeah. All right. Well, let's bring in the Hall of Famer, the man, the myth. He is the great Rondé Barber. On a bit of a somber day, but as I know you will, Rondé, we're going to celebrate the life of a man that was an absolute. He was a treasure. He was a treasure and unique, one of one, icon, innovator, motivator, everything. Good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. All those things times 1,000, JP. It's
Yeah.
impossible to put words on it that I'm sure everybody else has already said. Read a couple of articles last night, this morning, trying to encompass what Monte Kiffin was to, I mean, not just us, but to professional football, college football.
Yeah.
The guy was absolute legend, and he did it with such a big heart, JP. It's impossible for any of us that played for him to not feel the loss.
Yeah.
He was family. This league, this sport has seen a lot of great men come and go. I would dare to say there's none quite as unique as Monte Kiffin. The manner in which he did his job for us and for all the teams that he coached for, but most specifically the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was special. It was special, and everybody around the league knows it.
Well, before we get into the X's and O's of it, I want to touch on what you first mentioned and him as a human being. It was kind of a velvet hammer, was it not? I mean, he would get after you guys. I was just telling the stories that just the most entertaining thing at training camp was just listening to Monty get after your ass. And
right.
And what was that like? Just knowing that he loved you so much and he would do anything for you and he had your back, but he was going to get after you.
Well, it was the expectation that he set in front of us long before you guys ever saw us on the field.
Yeah.
And it was the rules with which we lived by were staked firmly in the ground prior to any of us ever backpedaling, going and making a hit or a tackle. We look at our agenda for the day every single day, JP, and it wasn't just going over the X's and O's or the repping the concepts of cover two or whatever. It was, we're going to do key drill, we're going to do pursuit drill, we're going to do tackling drill, we're going to do the minutia so many times that by the time that we get to the aspects of our defense, we were already repped and prepared for what really mattered in the game, and that was hitting, tackling, and hustling. And the way that he did it, it wasn't like putting his foot on our throat. He put it on us. He made those expectations our expectations, mm-hmm. so that we went out there and chased them our own. Last night, JP, we had a big Zoom with a bunch of guys that had been around, coaches, players, and the one thing that we talked about was Rod Marinelli and Lovie Smith sitting at the goal line with their thumbs up or thumbs down, whether or not we ran fast enough to get to the ball. And those little things made Monty just an awesome coach. And I'll never forget the moments, the good and the bad, because I came into this situation here in Tampa not quite good enough, as you know, and it was because of his belief in me and then him allowing me to evolve as a player and then accelerate me as a player, the reason I became the football player that I did. But I'm going to miss him. I saw him recently. Obviously, he was at the Hall of Fame with me last year about this time, honestly. And you knew that his health was failing. You knew that he was just getting old. But the uniqueness that was Monty was still there. He was still alive at 84 years old. And it's just it's a sad day.
That's so well put. And, when you talk about the way he motivated you guys, can you get into a little bit of that? Like what some of the little sayings that he had, things that, he would do kind of behind the scenes. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. You know what? Monty was, when you talk about leadership, and obviously we always talk about football leadership, we talk about the guys on the field. But leadership in our building was Monty, and it was unique. And I think there's I don't know who said it. It's probably Julius Caesar. It's an old quote. But when you're talking about leadership, it said you got to give them the bread, the X's and O's, all the stuff that they need to know, and the circuses. And Monty was an entertainment man. Yeah, he was funny. He was serious. He was smart as hell. Even though he would say, this is insight. He was like, hey, man, you know where I went to school, right? And we were like, yeah, we know you went to Nebraska, Monty. And he goes, well, you know what that N on the helmet stands for, right? And we were like, no, Monty. He goes, stands for knowledge. You know? He just give us quotes like that all the time, man. And you know, we come into the meeting room on Saturday. And over the years, this evolved into, you know, your assistant coaches, Mike Tomlin, Raheem, you know, some of the younger guys, Jimmy Lake, taking over the DJ booth. But when Monty had the DJ booth, he would come in and I feel good James Brown is playing. And he'd get up and start doing his little shimmy. And, you know, it's just, he gave us everything that we needed to be, you know, not just robots on football field,
right.
Not just doing our jobs on the football field, but also, you know, becoming, you know, lively men, well-rounded. And that's what he was. And the consistency with which he came to work every single day, that energy, unparalleled, man. It's unparalleled.
Rondé, I covered the Cowboys when he was here with the Cowboys in the early teens. Talked to several Cowboys players about Monty back in the day and since. And they always told me that they likened him to more of a college-style coach than a pro coach for them, because he was always more of trying to be a father figure for them and, you know, helping them, kind of treating them like teenagers that needed to be, you know, molded a little bit, and helping them with not just football, but with life. Did you kind of get that impression too?
Yeah, that's exactly who he was. I mean, I texted Lane and Heidi yesterday and had to pass it on to Chris as well. But I was like, we all feel this loss because he wasn't just our coach. He was family, you know, and even when you were gone, even when you were done playing, or after, in my case, after he left to go to work with his son in Tennessee and then California and then wherever else, you know, he'd always stay in touch. You know, he'd call you and be like, and I'm sure he knew this already, but he would call me and be like, Ronnie, what was that one play against Washington in 1999? And I'm like, yeah, Monty, it was the play. Da, da, da. He's, yeah, that's it. Do you remember what you were thinking on that play? And you're like, maybe, I don't know. But he just wanted to talk. You know,
he just wanted to call and talk to you. Yeah,
he just wanted to live football. And that your point is well taken, because you know, normal coaches don't do that. You know, only guys that have father figure roles in your life care enough for you to continue to be that for you. And Monty was definitely it. I mean, we lost a good one, man. His influence spread so far. We probably don't even recognize how many Monty disciples there are. But there's a bunch of head coaches, a bunch of coordinators. There's loads and loads of assistants that are still in the NFL, probably in college, that go to work every day. And what they learned under Monty, they're still using in their meeting rooms and on the field now.
Rondé Barber joining us here. You know, I said earlier that you used to call him this too, the mad scientist. We all did. And I swear Christopher Lloyd must have met Monte Kiffin somewhere along and patterned that Doc Brown character after Monty. It was a dead ringer. Am I lying?
That's exactly right.
But give me some insight into his intellect, maybe a story or two of where, and it wasn't just the Tampa 2 concepts. It was breaking down film on a weekly basis, and he would see things that maybe other people didn't see and then translate them to you guys to execute. Right?
Yeah. And Monty, I mean, obviously we called him mad scientist because he'd come up with all kinds of blitzes and, you know, not really coverages. We were pretty sound coverage wise. We played cover 2. We played forms of cover 3. We talked about doing quarters coverage, which is very, very vogue today, but we only did it very sparingly. But Monty spent his time, and I mean, spent his time, like never left the building, spending his time coming up with ways to solve problems. So, you know, I don't know if you know this, but the way that we ran our defense, we would name almost every single play that we got. So somebody ran a play against us and we had never seen it before, or it was unique and we didn't stop it. He would name it after the team that ran against us, right? So it would be, say, the Philly play or the Tennessee Titans play. And he would go through an entire off season and try to figure out how to solve those problems, right? And so when we came into work in the next season, you know, he somebody get up there and draw tight and play, whatever. All right, this is how we're going to play it versus this coverage. This is how we're going to play it versus this X coverage. And when we run a blitz, this is going to cover this up. And he was always so detailed in it because he spent so much time,
thinking about
on the couch, honestly, trying
at the old
one buck, where all the rats and coaches were, man, and trying to figure out how to solve it. So his intellect was really his hard work, and we were all aware of it. It's not as if any of us just realized he did this on the spur of the moment. I got the solution. We knew he put the work in, so we all wanted to put the work in too because he did that work. I know he drove his assistants crazy. I remember when Raheem was first here as assistant to Mike T, and if Monty was in the building, he had to be in the building. Same with Jimmy Lake, same with all these young coaches that came through here. It was like Monty would just grind you to a halt, but he was also very mindful of their time, and I think they all knew that they were going to be rewarded for the work that he put in and that we collectively put in. And there's a reason the Pro Football Hall of Fame gave him the award for excellence this year. It was probably long overdue.
Yes.
You got Hall of Famers in there. Somebody's responsible, and the head coach is already there. So it was nice to see that award was bestowed on him before he passed, because I know how much it would have meant to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was great. It was great to see him enjoy that and feel that. And I hate to call him an assistant coach. I tried to just call him a coach, and people would say, why did Monty never become a head coach? And they would ask me, and I would say, it's just, it wouldn't be right. I don't, it would somehow change him. And I would never want to see that. I know I'm not expressing this in the right way, but can you express it?
Yeah, you're saying the right things. There's a minutia that comes with being a head coach that just didn't fit his personality. There's the
much better
dealing with guys like you on a daily basis, right? He only had to talk to you guys once a week. It's having to lord over an entire team and make decisions with your front office. And not that he couldn't do that, but it really just didn't fit his MO. His MO was I'm gonna put my head down. I'm gonna figure out how to make whatever problem that we have better for our players, and then I'm gonna go figure out how to call a game. Having to deal with all the other stuff, I just don't think it just wasn't him. And like you said, this is a kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment that we keep making about him, but he was Doc Brown. He was a mad scientist, man. Like, I don't think that interviewed well.
I know, exactly. When he interviewed for head coaching, and how many head coaches have we seen, that just should have stayed assistant coaches? Should have know your lane.
Hey,
and right?
It's a hard lane. It's a hard lane to stay in sometimes because the money looks different in that lane than it does in this lane. But there's a reason Monty was at one point the highest paid assistant in the NFL. At one point, he was the highest paid assistant in college football. The guy had an energy to him that I think redefined how you coach. And if anybody was ever around him as a coach, that's the bare minimum energy. Like, you better have more than that to be better than Monte Kiffin was. So he was special, man. And I think we're all realizing it as you hear and talk to more people about him. More and more of these types of stories will come out, and people will really understand what he was. He wasn't just Tampa 2 defense. Right. He was a lot more than that.
I had an opportunity to talk to him again when he was here in Dallas about back when he was at Nebraska. He was there, of course, with Tom Osborne when the head coaching job became available. And it was between him and Tom. And, of course, Tom got picked, and he stayed on as the DC. And I remember asking him, I was with a couple of other reporters there. I was like, well, how do you think it had gone if you'd have taken over instead of Tom as the head coach? He's like, oh, Tom, wonderful. They did everything they could under him. Fine job, national championships. It was the right decision. And then as everybody's walking away, he looks at me, he kind of goes tongue in cheek. He goes, I'd have won more titles.
Well, he went to NC State. He was a head coach for 3 years there. Yeah. I can't remember what his record was. He always talks about it as, that was one of my average periods in life. But everybody knew how talented the dude was. It was just, it's hard to be a head coach. And obviously you go to Nebraska, especially then, you're going to win because you had all the talent in the world. Obviously, it's changed now, but
150 players on scholarship too.
exactly.
Yeah, remember the old days.
Back in the Big 8 days, man. That's
Yeah,
when it was real.
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have a couple just Monty stories that you could share?
Yeah. I mean, I got so many Monty stories, man.
Go ahead.
I mean, Monty and I had a unique relationship because at one point in the whole Tampa kind of deal, I wasn't part of that big three, So I remember those years when I was trying to come up and trying to prove my self-worth and my worth to the team. And I think Monty always kind of, I want to say he didn't want to believe that I was as good as I was at first, right? But then I got on the field my second year, and he was like, oh, "Okay, this kid can play, right?" But you know the story, or he couldn't pronounce my name, right? Where I said it in my Hall of Fame speech. He called me Randy all the time, and then I ran with everything. He's like, "Randy, Rondé, whatever. We're calling you Randy." But it was affectionate, That story was phenomenal. One of the best stories I have about Monty, and it was really a story about our belief in each other. It was in 2008 when we drafted Aqib Talib, and he was gonna midway through the season he was gonna bench me, and we had a long week. It wasn't a great week, I'll say that. Me and Monty have had a lot of good weeks. This was not a good week, and then we get on Friday, and he pops into my office, or my confiscated office down at the new One Buck. It was an old players' meeting room where I used to watch film, and we had it out. We had a long talk. I won't say what was said in there, but come to work on Monday, and he tells me, "I can't do it. Rondé's starting. I just can't do it. You gave me too much to this franchise, to this team. Nobody else wants you to not start except for me, and you're going to play. You're going to start this weekend." I mean, I'm still going to play, but he's like, "You're going to start this weekend." I was against Detroit in 2008, and I went out and had interception for a touchdown. And I was telling these guys last night when I was talking to them, it was like, think about it, it was 2008, JP. Like I was seeing the end of my career like that week.
Yeah.
It springboarded the next 4 years of my career, which certainly got me to where my final destination in pro football. But it was because of Monty's belief in me. Like he was trying to not offend me, but he was trying to find a way to make the team better, and it didn't include me at the time. And I've always lived with motivation, right? I've needed external motivation. I needed people not to believe in me.
It was a little kick in the ass, wasn't it?
Right. For 1 minute, it was what I needed. And Monte Kiffin gave that to me. And I'm sure he didn't do that on purpose. But it's kind of a deep dive into what our relationship was like, even when I was 32 or 33 years old. And I give all the credit in the world to Monte Kiffin. He put me on my path, man. And I'll forever be grateful for it.
That's a hell of a story.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a story. And the Tampa 2, take me through the evolution of that, because it evolved, right? It's just, and it evolved. As I said in the beginning, Monty loved smart football players and demanded it. And I just went through the roster of your Super Bowl team, and that was the years leading up to. And I said, every one of those guys, football IQ off the freaking charts.
Yes.
So take us in the back room, how it evolved, and how that, Monty's intelligence fed through your intelligence, the players, and it just became this like organic defense that could adjust to anything on the fly.
Yeah, I'll try not to make this too long of an answer here, JP, because the evolution is significant. So, I mean, this defense started back in Pittsburgh in the 70s. And what was unique about Tampa 2 versus regular cover 2 is that you needed a middle linebacker. In our case, it was Hardy Nickerson. And then it was Shelton Quarles. Jamie Duncan was in there for a minute. But, it was guys that had the athleticism to run through the middle of the field. So essentially, we had two high safeties. You also had a middle run-through player coming between those safeties that covered up the middle part of the field. So the deep middle was never occupied. So you do the math on that, and you're vacating the middle of the field with a middle linebacker. And so now you only have two underneath defenders. One was the will linebacker, one was the Sam linebacker / the nickel. So the reason why Derek and I made so many plays is because we had to understand that there's a third guy missing there, and the two seam droppers, me and Derek, had to make all those underneath plays. And there's really only one way to do that, And that's to understand the concepts that are coming at you. That's why we named all our plays. That's why we, had to have that like nonverbal communication about what was going to happen to us. So, think about it in simple terms, right? In every offensive set, you can only have 5 releasers, right? You only have 5 releasers, whether it's tight ends, receivers, running backs, whatever. Wherever that third releaser vacated to, whatever side of the field, that was primarily where the quarterback was looking to go. You just had to know that, right? So if I'm the nickel back on the right side and a third receiver comes to my area, I have to work outwards towards that. And then the other seam defender, who only has 2 over here, has to start cheating that way. Yeah. And it was like this dance between underneath linebackers or coverage guys, me and Derek and the Sam linebacker, and we just perfected it. And then it evolved from there into like really jumping routes. That's why I had so many interceptions at nickel. That's why Derek had so many interceptions at will linebacker, because there was nothing you could give us that we hadn't already seen or had named or understood what was coming at us. And then we knew we were protected the whole time with the middle linebacker in the middle of the field.
You had help, right?
Yeah. Right? 2 corners in the flat. That's what Tampa 2 became. But then we got really good at disguising Tampa 2 and running blitzes off of it, and quarterbacks going, what the hell is going on right now? It's like Rondé was supposed to be a seam dropper. Now he's blitzing through the A-gap. The safety was supposed to be dropping into cover 2, and now Dexter Jackson's coming off the edge. It was a really neat to be in a defense that was simple enough for everybody to understand, but free enough where we could just kind of create whatever magic we needed to each particular week. And Monty was the architect of all that, and he let us be organic, like you said, and he let us go chase, making plays. There's a reason why we led the league in sacks, yardage allowed, interceptions,
takeaways.
Particular stat you want to name. At one point during that 10-year run, let's say, we were the best in the league at it, and it was pretty awesome to be a part of.
Best defense ever. I know where your vote is.
I think so. I mean, if you need greatness at each level to be considered the greatest of all time, we had it. And obviously we had a great head coach in Tony, and we had a great defensive coordinator in Monty.
Both in the Hall of Fame. You, Lynch,
Brooks, you just put the numbers on it, and I would say that if we're not in the discussion, people are blinded by hubris.
The name Tampa.
Yes.
It's not, this is, we know the prejudice towards the small market Tampa.
Yes.
I know all about that. And I think, and to wrap this up, Ronnie, it comes back to trust, human connection between you and your coach and your player and your players.
Yep.
And it's that, I've seen it in these championship teams. It is family. I know it sounds a little trite and cliche, but it's just like family. It's like brothers. It's like, that's your dad. You don't want to disappoint him, but you can yell at him and he can yell at you. And at the end, you're still going to love each other. You're going to get the point across. The intensity is going to be there. And that's the secret sauce. That's the key to success. It comes down to relationships and trust.
Well, people want to say on any particular Sunday, you have to be there for each other. But the reality is, it's Monday after the game. It's the Tuesday, your off day. You're taking care of yourself. You're taking care not to put yourself in a position where we're no longer going to be able to help the team. Are you coming to work on Wednesday and learning and then grinding on that afternoon's practice, and Thursday to perfect it, and then Friday to tie a bow on it, and then take care of yourself Friday night before you go on the road or playing at home on Saturday in the hotel? We had that, and it was largely because Monte Kiffin, like I said earlier, put that expectation on us, and there was no deviating. There was no excuses. There was no explanations. All you had to do was show up and do your job, and we would win. And he made it that simple. No excuses, no explanations. Show up and do your job, hustle and hit, and we will win. And we did. Monty's a unique individual, man. I'll end with this, JP. The guy was 84 years old. And Peyton Manning texted me last night, and I told him the story. And I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but Monty was born in 1940. You know what 1940 was? A leap year. He was born on 1940 on February 29th. He died in a leap year.
I did not know that.
2024. So technically, Monty was only 21 years old.
Yeah. I only had 21
I told Peyton last night, I was like, only the good die young. He was 21. He was a hell of a young man at 84. It was pretty special.
What a man. Can I sneak in one question about this Bucs offseason? How you feeling? I feel like I'm not being objective about this team, but I feel like Jason just did such an unbelievable job.
Yeah.
This team is ready to do something special. If not this year, maybe next year, but it filled every hole. I love the defense. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not ready to answer all my Bucs questions because I haven't yet dove into to where the roster has developed yet. I mean, I will here probably next week, but I'll answer that question by saying something I've been saying all year, actually. And I didn't get this from Jason. I didn't get it from John or Mike Beal or Greeny or Jackie or all these other guys in the front office, Rob McCartney.
Yeah.
Dude, we don't give them enough credit for what they've done for this football team over the last decade. It's incredible what they've done. How they've remodeled, retweaked, added here, subtracted there at precisely the right time. Jason Light doesn't get nearly the credit he should for a team that he continues to put together. The winning team. We won 4 straight NFC South championships, and you can say all you want to about the South being weak. You still have to go out and win games when they matter, and they have. I feel good about this team just like I felt good about them last year. I love the energy that Baker brings. What I don't know is how good Liam Cohen is. I think he's a good player. A good offensive coordinator. He made Baker a good player. The latter part of his time in LA, before he went to Kentucky for a year, and I think the offense will evolve even more under him. He's got great energy. I think they've made the right moves. Signing Mike back, getting Levante back, and most importantly, probably getting Jordan Whitehead back. I mean, for me, if you paid any attention to the Bucs 3 years ago, whenever I talked about the Bucs, I talked about Jordan Whitehead, dude.
Yep.
He is a hell of a football player. And adding him to Antoine, who is the best safety in football, by the way, I think solidifies that backfield. He needs Zion to come along. He needs to turn into the player he looks like he should be. He had a great offseason. Watched some of their practice film. He had a great offseason. And I think we got better up front on the offensive line, man. Just bringing in Graham Barton, man. The guy's different. I mean, personality-wise, he's different. Physically, he's different. I think we all figured out that Luke Gedeke is a better offensive tackle than he was offensive guard.
Much better.
Those questions can just go out the window. People should just shut the hell up and say and just realize that he's a good player. I like where we're at. I like the running back we drafted. He's dynamic. He'll help us. Again, they make great moves. Jason Light does not get enough credit.
We were promised a boat parade if you got it all done, and I'm it's gassed up and ready. I mean, where are we at, Jason? Let's go. We're all going to Beer Can.
That happens, JP. I'm making the trip to Tampa. I'm getting on the boat.
Come on up. You'd enjoy it. You would.
I would. Oh, for sure.
3 years ago today, we were doing the Lightning boat parade. Yeah. So let's get it done. We need another one. Rondé, I thank you, man. I always appreciate you. Always there when I call you, especially in moments like this. And the tribute you just gave to that man was absolutely fantastic. We're going to spread it out over social media. You're a treasure. You are a treasure, my friend. And I thank you so much for all your support. You're the best. Thank you.
I love being on with you, buddy. Love you, dude.
Thanks, my brother. Love you. I love you, man. The great Rondé Barber right there. It brings me back. Sometimes you don't recognize when you're in it, the greatness that's happening. But I remember saying it on the air many times, like, folks, this is special what we're witnessing here.